There was a time when black people really didn't have to go out of their neighborhood for anything. Yes, Pettigrew and parts of Fayetteville Street, furniture stores, theaters, restaurants, even clothing. There were just a lot of learned people in Durham who were interested in promoting black life. Of course, we didn't say black then. It was either colored or Negro and what have you. But people of color.
Black Wall Street was outside of the main enclave of African American Durham, which was Hayti, which was south of the railroad tracks. It was a statement about entrepreneurship. It was a statement about equity. It was a statement about ambition. It was a statement about accomplishment. And it was very accomplished. After the end of the Civil War, you have people coming from the Stagville plantation and moving into Durham, buying property in Durham, building businesses, homes, and families in Durham. So you have this sort of expansion. People are smart, they figure out, oh, what are the things that the people in our community need that we can provide, right? And so they do that, and those businesses grow and grow and grow because Durham as a manufacturing community grows, right? So once you building tobacco, you also have to build wagons, you have to build houses, you have to build schools. This is very strategic.
This story begins at the Museum of Durham History. This small, unassuming building contains so much of what makes Durham special. In our research, we noticed so much was talking about Parish Street, home to the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company and Mechanics and Farmers Bank. This was the hub of black financial excellence that defined Durham throughout the early 19th and 20th century. And yet, both the museum and Parish Street itself were scant with additional information. To dig a little bit deeper, we turned to the Duke University archives. There, we found rich documentation of North Carolina Mutual Life and how through its own operations, it was able to support countless other black businesses. Most interestingly, though, we found evidence of the Parish Street Advocacy Group, a group of community leaders, educators, and organizers, all dedicated to preserving the legacy of Black Wall Street. But we just couldn't figure out one thing. Black Wall Street and the Parish Street Advocacy Group had seemingly faded from memory. Why was that? So our group is now here on Parish Street itself. On the street, you can't really see that many indicators other than the Mechanics and Farmers Bank that this is, where Black Wall Street used to be. It was the heart of black independent financial ownership. Right now we're standing in front of the historic Parish Street Forum. This is something that we found no documentation for online, and looking here at the actual exhibit, it looks like a really amazing way to preserve the legacy on Parish Street itself. But when we went to go take a look inside, as you'll see, there used to be an exhibit here, but now the building is practically shut down, and it's yet another dead end for, figuring out the ways in which the legacy of Black Wall Street has been preserved. Because here on Parish Street itself, the legacy is still, fading actively. understand the community influence of Paris Street, we turned our attention to expert interviews. We hope that local faculty, professors, and intellectuals will be able to offer key insight into the many ways in which the legacy of Black Wall Street has lived on.
I was in charge of contacting Mr. Neil Williams. We initially got his information from Barbara Lau. She said that he was a former student and he would be able to help us since he did a whole project on Black Wall Street, documentary style too. So Tim, he said he asked one of us to contact him, but we didn't have any information. So I was in class and I was like, okay, let me look him up. I looked him up. A bunch of articles came up around his project, but there was still no information. But somehow I got his Instagram. So I slid into the DMs and I contacted him and he told me that basically I said, I'm a student from Duke. I'm doing a documentary project. Basically what he did on Black Wall Street. He said, oh, he responded 20 minutes later, oh, I would love that, and email works. He gave me his email. I emailed him. I sent him a list of questions. Then he said that he didn't seem like the right man for the job. So then I said, oh, well, we would just want some of your resources if you could help us. And he never responded or got back to me. And that was like a month ago. And so Neil Williams was a no-go.
My name is Dylan Colley, and for our video project, I was responsible for reaching out to a couple of different people. First, that was Professor William Darity at Duke. Then that was Steve Schewel, the former mayor of Durham. We reached out to both of them. They're very responsive, but both of them actually recommended that we speak to more so of an expert on Durham's Black Wall Street, and that was a professor over at NC State, Professor Andre Van. He's written extensively on the topic and has access to what's probably one of the best archives in the local area for remembering, preserving, itemizing, and cataloging what was Black Wall Street. Interestingly, both of our original people that we reached out to said that they actually felt uncomfortable talking about the history of Black Wall Street simply because they didn't know enough about the topic area and felt like they weren't the foremost experts that could truly capture what it was. In our opinion, we thought they would be great resources to reach out to, but according to them, they felt like they just wouldn't be able to capture it adequately, and for that reason, they didn't want to speak on it at all, which we respected, and so we decided to reach out to Professor Andre Van. It was pretty tricky to reach out logistically, but we were able to kind of go back and forth and, figure out a way in which we could schedule a time to meet. That happened, I want to say late November, early December, and then first week of December, I believe that Monday, we were able to find out a time to meet with him, but due to an unfortunate last minute, scheduling complication, we just couldn't meet.
On the project, I reached out to everybody connected to the Paris Street advocacy group that we knew about. So all the people that were on that roster sheet we found in the archives, which included basically every member of their organization. As a result, sent probably 20, 30 emails, called personal phones, called work phones, sent texts, which didn't really pan out. Actually, none of them panned out. We got actually one response from a woman who lived in Seattle. And after she seemed initially on board with the project and speaking about it, once we tried to pin down a date, she immediately went radio silent.
We started this project with the simple objective to learn more about Black Wall Street and how this essential part of Durham's history was being remembered. But throughout this process, our inquiry only created more questions for us. In the process of searching for interviews and finding dead ends with the experts we sought to talk to, we realized that though Paris Street remains in Durham today, the essential interpersonal lifeblood interactions that defined the relationship between Black Wall Street and the larger Durham community existed within the city's members themselves. And as those members moved away or passed on, their legacy, their influence, and their impact on Durham's Black Wall Street left with them.
But there were giants in this community who didn't talk about themselves. They did what needed to be done, and so be it.